Hello, friends. On the Horror Planet channel, let's start the story.
The ocean is the mother of all humanity. I read that in an old mythical book in my school library. It says that we come out of it and return to it like fish when we die. Death spits out a bitter poison before it enters the water, falling forever into our mother's arms. When I asked the old librarian about it, he said that no one is sure why this belief came about, but I think it's because of the feeling you get when you're in the water. It feels like it's hugging you, parents. It's a peaceful hug that calms you down and takes your worries away. Anyway, why do I love the ocean? I don't love the ocean and my love for the ocean. So I'm the only one in the group who offered to sleep outside when we knew the hotel didn't have enough rooms for everyone. To be honest, I don't care. I don't even care about school trips. I just go and usually finish what I do by myself, which always happens. Think again, I don't mind no one else. I wish to spoil the experience. Tonight, a gentle breeze blows in from the sea and sweeps the grass up the beach, creating a soft rustle. But the only other noise that reaches my ears comes from the ripples of the waves and my breathing. I look at the constellations that are uncomfortable, usually from the waves, a constant sound that puts me to sleep instantly, or at least within minutes. But I have laid here for hours without feeling the slightest bit sleepy, even without that, thanks to the nagging fear that lurks in this here. I turn the corners of my consciousness and look at the grass blowing in the wind. Behind it is a small hotel, its balcony lights sparkling in the dark. Maybe the hotel owner's wife lit it for me. She's the type who would do that. I do that, but now I have my back to the water. Whatever the problem is, even though it's just water, I realize that the chances of something coming out of it and leading to my death are not great. But it's as if I've just returned to the predator I just summoned. And tell me why I'm afraid. What am I afraid of? I'm back to face imaginary danger. Maybe nothing has changed. I've learned that the only thing that can calm me down when I'm stressed is to go swimming. I need to feel that comforting hug that reminds me that everything is still okay. After all, maybe I'm just stressed because I can't wait to get in the water. The real teacher said we should wait until tomorrow to swim. But there's not much difference between swimming in one day, unless there's a natural disaster or the water freezes. I take the sheet off my head and jump in on the foam pad I'm lying on. I lift it up to a loose tube, find a rock lying nearby, and use it to grab onto if she decides to see the world on her own and roll with the breeze while I'm gone. Slinking across the sand, I care about avoid the bright light from the balcony in case anyone wakes up and looks outside. I'm already wearing a swimsuit, and my body is exposed to the wind and sand. All I need now is the snorkel and goggles that the instructor has fitted us with. Whatever swimming gear we have brought with us is in the shed next to the hotel, which I hope is not locked. And I like to think we are far enough away from anything major in the city to bother anyone about theft, except the hotel. The owner could be careful and prevent vent. Anyway, I stop in front of the shed door and make sure I haven't been caught. Nothing moves in the dark. The porch light stays on. I reach over and try the handle. It's not locked. Perfectly, I push the door open and go to where I think my snorkel and glasses are based on my memory of where I put them. Please don't knock on anything. Aha! I run out of the shed and do my best to close the door as quietly as I just opened it, for fear of being caught wiping my gear. I slide down the shed to the beach, and my goggles slide down my face as I go, and they fit snugly around my nose. But I fix them well before I tie the snorkel to the goggle straps and bite the mouthpiece. I'm already lying neck deep in the cold water. I continue to wait until the water is above my waist, attached to the pool. I turn on a small waterproof flashlight and dip it in the water. It is a little colder than I thought it was, and now all I have is under it, but it is unbearable for me. A few strokes send me hurling to the bottom of the sea, a few crabs scurrying away from the beam of the light. Otherwise, I'm completely alone. The real embrace of the water calms my expectations. I stop stroking and swim for a moment. My snorkel barks above the surface of the ocean. I look out into the open sea, which means there is a forest of seagrass, which the hotelier tells us is to my right. And to my left, the beach stretches all the way without distinguishable features. And it seems like an endless stretch of beach, so I decide to walk a little in the open water before heading back. That shouldn't be a problem as long as I don't go too far and encounter a current that takes me after a while out into the sea more. Kicks, my flashlight suddenly fails to shine beneath me. The sand I'm holding in front of my hand that's still in its glow momentarily grabs my hand and suddenly blinds me if the flashlight is still on, but it doesn't touch the seabed and its rays want me swimming to the drop and circling. I manage to shine a flashlight over the edge of the drop onto a huge rocky cliff jutting out into the sea. The sound is too far away for me to hear clearly, but it only feeds my curiosity and my better judgment takes over. I take a deep breath, secure my diving cap to the end of the tube that is still above the waves, and dive in. After a short descent, I stop and listen. It's clearer this time. I've heard fish, shrimp, and a few dolphins on previous dives, but I don't seem to have dived into any of them to better understand what I want. I can't hear. I raise one eyebrow, my heart seeming to stop in my chest as I listen to the best comparison I can think of to describe these sounds. Baby cooing to adult voices, some baritone, others more feminine, all vowel side by side, as if speaking of which, these aren't the sounds of any sea creatures I've ever heard before. As my lungs burn, as my body sends out a signal that it needs more oxygen, but I'll swim a little further to see if I can catch a glimpse of these speakers and start descending again. The sounds go silent. My heart stops along with my lungs. They see me and get scared if they get close and shine a flashlight around. A small school of fish arrows in my face, right, but I can't see anything else. Another thing that doesn't lessen the growing panic inside me. If the speakers are close, they could be looking at me now. If they fear me as a threat, they are waiting for me to turn my back on them. No, I can't. I think aquatic creatures sometimes sound strange. Why can't there be such a thing as a human? Dolphins can sound very similar to humans when they talk. No, it can't be. These sounds, no creature can reproduce human speech that sounds exactly like that, unintelligible. When the words finally surrender to the need for air, I rise as quickly as I dare to search deeply for any sign of speakers or any other potential danger without opening myself. I break the surface and take a deep breath through a small mouthpiece. I continue to look below me, and still nothing comes of these sounds. I swim to the shore as fast as I can. These were the sounds, I'm sure. I will repeat them in my head when I rise from the waves, and I headed to the shore. I had no doubt that the sounds were there, but what caused them? Was that there were no clear words? It sounded like the speakers were trying to learn to speak. And I pulled my towel out of the water, the bundle I was using, as I brushed and dried myself. I wondered if it was the voices of adults screaming like children, or the fact that I could hear them in the same water I was swimming in. I shuddered as my imagination began to play with what I had just been through. As it did, it shook my country. It seemed to shake them. Thoughts drifted from my mind to the attic to replace the breathing tube. What's the point? And I wonder if I can find the source of the sounds. Just forget it. I go back to my sleeping pad and put it in my bag. For a small bottle of alcohol solution, I make sure to clean my ears after swimming. I put some of the liquid in my ears with feeling until I tilt my head and the loose water comes out of my ears. I pour it on sand. But unlike water, the sounds don't leave my head. I play her memory back and forth as I lie on my pillow staring at the night sky, forgetting her voice. No matter what happens, I feed my mind to sleep. In this good morning values, my eyes widen in the light of the morning sun shining across the water. I seem to have gone to sleep in the midst of my musings, though I don't feel as if I've rested. It's been a dream? Please let it be a dream. Standing nearby is the innkeeper's wife, an elderly woman with a bun held high. "It's time to order breakfast," she replies. "We can't leave you here while everyone else is eating.
Your plate will be ready soon." I hear the sand moving towards the hotel, but I don't look away and wonder what's out there. I stand up, brush off the layer of salt, put on my shirt, still looking at the water. Suddenly, the edge of the sun peers in, staring into my vision and forcing me to look. I wrapped the shiny paper in foam, slung the box over one shoulder, and headed to the hotel, slipping into my shoes as I opened the front door. Suddenly, my ears were bombarded by the sound of multiple conversations. It was taking place in the hotel dining room, all made up of the familiar voices of my classmates and the clear words of, "Thank God." It was a relief to finally hear the sequence of the night's incident. "Good morning." I turned to see the teacher standing in the back. He nods at his salt-covered arms. "You seem to be so close to the ocean." I hesitate for a moment to look at my arms. "Yes, I feel the crust." I nod again before reaching the table. "Yes, sir." With obvious relief, he strides into the dining room, his hand on my little ones. I follow him to the hoses behind the hotel. What's the use of washing off the salt? I've just gotten back in the water. However, this afternoon, I turn the nozzle, sending a thin stream of salt-free rainwater flowing through the hose to the surface above me, washing the salt off my hands and feet. I probably wouldn't go swimming again last night, a decision that didn't last long as all the other students were eagerly running to the ocean. I realized that my choice to pass the time was either to sit on the hot sand and watch everyone else go crazy, or to get in temporarily watering myself. I decide to go for another dip, leaving my goggles on my forehead as I return to the waves. The water warmer than it was last night, and it's very clear that everything above the water looks distorted, even though it's floating in the air. I enter the water to the left of the main group so as not to be interrupted by a classmate with less calm motives. When you're swimming with a group of roughnecks on a recreational trip, it's only a matter of time someone decides to take you underwater for some reason. They call it fun. Thanks to the fact that I only swim with other people in recent years when I am with the school swimming club or diving team, at least they want to be in the water. I slide my goggles down my face in order to be in the water, and I enjoy the sunlight, which is distorted by the water above, creating strange patterns on the sea floor. And its light allows me to see a great distance and gives me a clear vision, a better view of my surroundings than I didn't catch some crabs and fish last night. But as the flat sea floor breaks around me, I see other students falling into the water, but they are far enough away from me to be covered by fog. I hear them rumble like distant thunder. I turn my gaze back to the blue expanse in front of me, curious about what I went through last night. The only thing I know I have to see is that the fall can't be more than 100 yards it was in front of me, so I don't think it was very separate from the group, at least not by my definition. The thunder was followed by what I can only describe as an underwater scream. I lifted my head above the surface to see someone digging. I swim towards them in the water as fast as I can, and when I get down, I see a trail of blood in the water, and the victim is a girl's leg wrapped around her, and she's still screaming. "Stop!" I say. I pull her to the shore with my fingers. She doesn't struggle and doesn't release her hands from her leg, which probably stops her from bleeding too much at that time. While we're almost certain that everyone has finally noticed the commotion, the teacher and the old man who owns the hotel, the adults know that when something is wrong, the other students run out of the water in a panicked mass, clearly afraid that what happened to the girl could happen to them too. I can't say I blame them. "What happened?" the old man asks as I lead the girl to the beach. "I don't know," I admit. I take off the straps of my glasses so they hang around my neck. "But he's bleeding profusely." The old man calls his wife, who runs out of the hotel with what appears to be an emergency medical kit. The color drains from his face when he sees the scene. The girl's screams finally quiet down to moans of pain through clenched teeth, and blood begins to drip between my fingers. "Here," I say, when he tries to pull my hand away from her legs. "You have to let go so we can get to her." He takes a deep breath and immediately pulls his hand away, and the blood in his hand begins to flow freely onto the sand. I can't see exactly where it's coming from, but it looks like an almost circular cut, maybe a bite or a scratch. The old woman squeezes a small piece of cloth so far. In my experience, this is one of the worst things you can hear from someone giving first aid.
but the girl embraces herself as best she can. And the old woman gently caresses the injury, even though I can see that every touch sends waves of pain. The sick teacher turns and looks at the other students, who stand far away watching between their injured classmate and the water wound. An old man and a woman next to me also look at the injuries. I don't think it was a shark or a racer, I say. The teacher turns with a frown as his gaze meets the injuries and sees his face. The girl leans over to get a better look at him, her leg widening. As her eyes widen, I see that there is undoubtedly a bite mark, and no more than 2.5 inches in diameter, etched into his left leg. I leaned closer to make sure it was me. I wasn't seeing things, but closer inspection confirmed my suspicions that the bite marks were from teeth that clearly belonged to a person. The teacher walks around to face the other students. "And show me your teeth." The students hesitate in confusion at the sight of a few crane and X's. Even behind him, I can see the teacher's muscles tensing, and what I see is now shiny. All the students are baring their teeth at once. None of them have bloody skin or any kind of residue stuck to any part of their mouths. The teacher turns back, raising an eyebrow at me, also baring my teeth as proof of my innocence. "Do you know any fish like this?" he asks me as my head shakes and I look at the old man, also shaking his head, probably caught in some floating garbage. He just needs to be monitored to make sure he doesn't get infected. The girl looks at him suspiciously but doesn't say anything. The old woman nods as she finishes wrapping the girl in a foot-long gauze, putting a little antibiotic on her to help keep her clean. The most important thing right now isn't the teacher, and turns to the students. I just caught some floating garbage, nothing serious, just remember to be careful," and ask the students to relax and get back in the water and not care about seeing injuries. What am I going to do? I look at the other students who have returned to their carefree swimming. The teacher nods and returns to the nearby beach chair, seemingly satisfied with the old man's explanation. The kind old woman says as she helps the girl up, "Let's go inside." "I didn't fall into the trash can," the girl says when she first speaks. "I stepped on something and it bit me." "I know," the old woman says quietly. She shrugs her shoulder, but there's nothing to worry about. The girl turns her head and looks at her. Her face contains two expressions of silent gratitude and confusion for answers. "Please thank me. I'm surprised this isn't the first time I've been an impromptu rescuer, but this is the first time someone has used gratitude as another expression, guess me. I seem to be silently begging for answers, too, which is appropriate because I don't have any. And I'm sure he's looking, and I look at the old man. I probably know where to look for them, though." "You don't, really? I think the sign is made of rubbish," I say quietly, more of a statement than a question. The old man frowns. "This isn't the first time." I raise my eyebrows. Not the old man sighs heavily. "This doesn't happen very often, but while someone on this beach can remember, people get bitten that way." I turn my gaze to the sea and study the water. "What makes them—" "Who knows?" the old man says with a shrug. "We never found out that the wounds never became infected except in one case. We just clean them of rubbish and take care of the victims as best we can." He frowned, which was different when he was injured the second to me. I wait with my eyes open. I calmly slap the clean sand over one of the piles of blood spilled on the beach. There is a black liquid in the bite, and finally he says, "The victim died of an infection the next day, and I repeat that it is not an infection." The old man looks at me. "What do you want to call me then?" I hesitate. Then I nod. What do I call such a thing? We do not know what he is muttering, or what to do about it. I remain silent. I do not know how he deals with it, but I must admit that I cannot completely disagree with him, or he knows as little as I do, and I have no idea what I would do if I were him. "For generations, this hotel was my family's only source of income," the old man says. "That's why we destroyed it. We didn't want people to stop coming here for fear of what's in the water." I still don't say anything. I have a clear feeling that the old man needs to understand this, some kind of confession. I realize that I'm scared. Charming and inquisitive narrator with an American accent leads a magical adventure suitable for adults in the world of horror stories. Says her voice, shaking slightly, "I don't know what's in this ocean of me. Nobody should be afraid, either." Nod. I hear. The old man looks at me finally. "Thank you." An old woman calls from the front door of the hotel and makes a turn on the radio, she says. "There's a storm coming," she shouts.
"I'll be here in a few hours," he says. I look out at the water and see the dark line at the edge of the horizon for the first time. Big. I better pack my things. I look at the dark line and help her follow me with a small smile. Then I sit on the sofa in the hotel lobby, my bed at night. I look out the window at the approaching storm and open the metal sliding doors that are made to cover the window in bad weather, so I can see outside, and I'm sure you don't want to go into the dining room. Asking everyone through the old door. I nod. I can never get through to them. I can see the old man nodding as he walks to the chair facing the window. The beach is really grateful, although I can say I watched the grass bend to the ground in the sudden wind. He said nothing again. Another wind blew in from the sea and shook the whole hotel. "Maybe we should close the storm window," the old man says. I get up slowly, watching the storm approaching fast. I grab one of the metal door handles while the old man grabs the one on the other side of the window. Then we push the two doors together as hard as we can. During a short pause, he pushes me. I look out the window. Suddenly, I notice that there are waves, sharp marks made by raindrops. As I watch the rain roll visibly into the water, the path leading to the sand, the old man roars with a grimace on his face. The hotel closes as another gust of wind soon joined by the sound of raindrops on the roof. The light flickers. "You have a flashlight?" the old man asks. "Yes," I answer. I feel my shoulder joint adjust as the iron door slowly lifts forward. Another gust of wind, the biggest yet. The hotel shakes the whole place. The lights go out with a loud thud. Some surprised exclamations came from the old restaurant, and finally the door opened and closed. The dim patch of bright gray light from outside. "Take out your flashlight outside," he says. "We'll need it. And take your flashlight out of your pocket and turn on the dim light in the pitch black. Let's all go back," the old man says. "The only thing you can do in a storm is to wait." "It's not that bad a storm," the old man tells everyone when we come. "You just have to wait for these events." The old woman calls me from the kitchen. I bring her the flashlight and a large dining table around which my classmates are gathered. She hands me some half-used candles and tells me to put them on the table and join her. As I stand, I notice that everyone seems quiet, especially after the candles are lit, which cast a warm, flickering glow around the table. Part of me still has this uneasy feeling that I attribute to how the wind outside sounds like screaming noises at random intervals. The screaming sounds less like the wind and more like a real person, reminding me of the underwater noises from the night before. I'm more worried if the screaming might be from the speakers I heard last night, and maybe it's the person biting people. There's a scream I can actually hear outside. After all, it might just be the storm. I'm trying to get my mind off of it. It's like I'm sitting at the table with everyone for a change. They laugh and bicker so easily without any apparent fear or anxiety. I'm panicking. I just imagine the sounds I hear and how I'm going to do it if I was. I figured I'd probably be on the beach tomorrow morning before anyone woke up. If the sounds were coming from something other than a storm, something must have left some sign of its presence outside. And if so, I can't find anything. I don't make any noise or bites. I think more. If I find something, good. I guess it depends on what I find. I open one eye to absolute silence. The wind has stopped. The rain doesn't fall loudly on the roof, and there is no sound of anyone waking up. The storm window is still closed, but I can tell it's early morning. I get up and pull my swim trunks and shirt over to the front door. As I quietly slip into the hallway, I'm sure enough to see the light beginning on the bright eastern horizon through the front door window. I put on my shoes and quietly left the building, screaming as the door creaked slightly as I closed it. The entire beach was littered with storm debris, seagrass, seaweed, debris, and some tapping on the sand from the hotel roof. I saw myself walking around them, watching closely for anything that seemed to be a sign of the noise I had heard last night or the night before. When I reached the edge of the waves, I found a lone, obviously dead fish, surrounded by small pieces of wood and torn seagrass. Other than that, I couldn't see anything. It was just my imagination, My fear of what I heard in the water made everything that happened next seem even more terrifying than it actually was. I let out a heavy sigh and shook my head from my overwhelming anxiety. Then the fish sighed. I jump. In the shape of a fish, I usually breathe out of the water, but I've never heard that when I make a sound, except for the catfish, which isn't a catfish. They wear white clothes that make them look smart. The man is barely breathing again. He opens his mouth and bites his cheeks. My eyes see something strange in his mouth, and I pull my lips back with my other hand. I reveal his human teeth. I look silently at the fish in my hand, which has a mouth with the same teeth as a human tongue, small enough to fit the level of his finger, and I find almost the same width as the fish, coughing up the leg of the girl it bit, and it does not resemble the sound of the patient, and a black liquid comes out of the mouth. I angle the fish so that the liquid doesn't touch my hand, causing it to fall onto the seaweed leaf, the leaf instantly curling up and disintegrating into black dust when the liquid touches it. I push the piercing white eyes as far inside me as I can, wanting to forget that I've ever seen a fish, to lose sight of it, to go back in time and not let myself go to the beach this morning, to do something so that you won't be here now and find it, a twist. But when I look at the fish, I see the flash of panic in its eyes, the same look in the eyes of every captive animal I have ever seen. I blink. Maybe this fish wasn't made this way. Maybe it had no answers for what was happening to it, as if I had no explanation for what this fish was in my mind. I bring the fish to the water and dip my hand in it. The fish is free. It's in the water. It doesn't matter what I think. The disturbing look, the fish is resting peacefully. The waves roll over me. Then arrows shoot from my hand, a silver line seeping into the water. I stand and look out at the ocean. It seems endless from where I am. Maybe I haven't even begun to understand what lies in the depths. Maybe something was happening to the fish. Maybe it was a new species, never before seen by modern man. Maybe something became a fish. I no longer care about fish, the sounds, or answers what happened in the last few days. I fear that if I focus on these questions, I will lose my love for the ocean. For the first time in my life, I even swim in the water. In fact, I am content with my ignorance. If I knew all the secrets of the ocean, I might not want to share this planet.
And that's where the story ends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, share, like, and finally, express your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching.